thank you very much for joining us. I'm joined by Michelle Wiseman and Mike Hart. Today we're here to talk about the campaign to save the Nicky Alliance Centre. Now, this might be something that a lot of people have read about in the local Jewish newspapers, particularly Jewish Telegraph, and it's been a very hot topic for the last couple of weeks. Michelle, you're the chief executive of the Manchester Jewish Community Care that run the Nicky, and Mike, you're the treasurer. So you've got a fantastic campaign coming up this weekend that aims to raise, I think it's £500,000 to save the centre. Let's talk about the centre because it's something that we all know exists. I know I've visited it before, but a lot of people don't get to see it in action. Who does the centre exist for? Who does it serve?
Well, the centre was established as a charity of the Jewish Blind Society in 1951, and the centre we're in today was built in 1987 when it widened the remit to enable more people to come from the community. So we serve those who have a general disability, those who are older, lonely, isolated, younger members who might have a disability such as Parkinson's, had a stroke, have some mental health issues. So we're here to look after all those people. Some of them live on their own, some live with their families. So we're here to give respite care to their loved ones, to their spouses, to their children. And we're here as a community centre, as a social club, to help those people who are lonely and wouldn't see anybody from day to day have some interaction with other people, while at the same time being able to do a whole range of activities from computer, go onto the computer, go onto the webcam, do Keep Fit, do yoga, do Tai Chi, go in the art room, have discussion groups, as well as having a hot meal at lunchtime. And we also do have a dignified bathing service, so many people unable to bathe themselves can come here and have a bath as well. But the centre isn't just for that group, although those are our main client group for the Nicky. It's also a community centre for other people who come in to use it, such as the Sam Hurwood Wednesday Club. We have a literary group who meets here. We have bereavement counselling done by the League of Jewish Women Care Concern. The League meet here as well, and the carers group meets here. So it is a centre for the whole community as well as just the Nicky itself.
That's fantastic. So it really it's played that role for many years.
Yeah.
And a lot of families and individuals have benefited from the fantastic work that the Nicky does. And yet we woke up one Friday morning, opened the Jewish Telegraph and found out that it was going to be closed. The decision was looking like it was going to be taken to shut this down. So you guys have been working behind the scenes together with your board to turn that around. It really was about making a financial argument for the Nicky to exist, because I think we all take it as a given that it offers tremendous value to its users, but it's about funding that as a community. So the challenge ahead of us is that the Jewish Telegraph article that I read was great, and it was a celebration of the fact that there is so much. You've managed to galvanise public support to save the Nicky. I think so much of us want to see it go on and to succeed, but you're very much not out of the woods yet, are you?
No, we've been a serious deficit for many years. We always felt that we had a cliff edge approaching sometime in the future, but probably not for a couple of years. When we were hit by the coronavirus, everything came to a stop, and we were forced to reconsider what our time frame was going to be. And at the time, it looked like by the time we could possibly reopen, we would be out of funds completely. So it was on the basis that the board took the very reluctant decision that we would have to close. Following that, I and others have spent a lot of time working on a restructuring plan to reduce our costs, with the thought that we could reopen, and with a bit more financial help from the community, we could carry on for as long as we needed to. The plan was approved by the board based on that reduced cost structure, but it still left us with a deficit, and we're appealing for additional funds to ensure that we have the ability to manage that deficit going forward. If you want to know why we have a deficit, the sort of services that we provide are heavily subsidised, including the meals that we provide. Because if we charge people or ask people to pay what it really cost, very few people would come.
So
we charge what we feel people
what they will pay, and so you're now asking members of the public and the community to get together. There's a matching campaign which we've seen similar efforts recently for the King David School. It was very successful. Now the basis of a matching campaign is that effectively there are other donors that are generally speaking anonymous, but they're there in the background and they're there to match and effectively double up on whatever it is an individual gives. There's an opportunity as well for taxpayers to elect for gift aid to go into that as well, so that there's more to go round. And your aim is to generate this weekend, this coming weekend, at least 250,000, which then represents 500,000 as a total target. But that's not going to be the end of the... Right. Fantastic. But that's not going to be the end of the line for the Nicky. That obviously buys you some time, but in order to sort of get the community engaged and to keep them interested in supporting such services, you obviously need ongoing support as well, won't you? In terms of donations in the future over and above that £500,000.
Yes, we've existed on ongoing support again for many years. That's been supplemented from time to time with some significant legacies. But part of our issue has been that legacies have basically dried up in recent years. So whilst regular donations are very welcome, very vital, we have needed larger sums from time to time, and that's what's disappeared. So part of the board's decision to reverse the closure was an act of faith that the community would respond accordingly.
Yeah.
And we hope and believe that's going to be the case.
We've certainly been very pleasantly not surprised, because the Manchester Jewish community never surprises me when they come out in force to support something. But it seems that there is a overwhelming caucus of support out there. Michelle, are you? Yeah. You've obviously been speaking to people and supporters. Are you seeing all sorts of people that you perhaps hadn't heard of in a long time coming out of the woodwork, as it were, to say, hey, look, this is important?
I think so. It's like we often take things for granted, and I think people have taken the Nicky for granted and not realised how much we actually need the financial support. But yeah, I mean, I have been inundated with letters and emails and texts. Yeah, I've been overwhelmed by the support, which is one of the reasons the board decided to look again at how we could stay open. I mean, it is really the last community centre now standing in North Manchester, and it is vital that the community has that resource here. And I think people going forward, it's been a wake-up call, let's call it that, for the community who've realised that we do need it and we need to carry on. And I've had phone calls from children and grandchildren of members who used to come many years ago, just saying, my grandparents had such an amazing time there. We can't let it go in their memory. We've got to help you support it to let it continue.
And that's one of the challenges, isn't it, that every organisation faces. I know that we used to face it on the housing association end of things, is that sometimes you need to encourage the next generation and people that might not be using the service today, because let's face it, they're too young to benefit from it.
Exactly.
But we've all had a relative, a friend, an auntie, an uncle that have all passed through the Nicky at some point, or all benefited from the services that it provides. And as young people, sometimes I'm going to still class myself as a young person, by the way, but as young people, we're guilty of not looking forward enough into the future and anticipating that we too one day will be using those services. So are you looking to sort of engage with younger people? Are there opportunities for them to perhaps volunteer in the future, but both on fundraising and also practical assistance?
Yeah, definitely. We are engaging. We've been had quite a few younger people, as I said, the grandchildren of people who used to come here, contacting me saying, yeah, we'll help, we'll do our fundraising, we'll get in touch with our generation, because it is, as you said, encouraging the next generation not just to be involved, but to be involved with charity giving and communal organisations, because when you and I have gone, and who's going to take over? And that's what we need to look for, not just on the financial front, but actually on the leadership front as well, which is very important. So we are encouraging, and volunteers more than ever. We will be needing. Our new model works more on relying even on more volunteers. At the moment, we use I worked out something like 75 volunteer roles a week, and we'll be increasing those opportunities. And even during the lockdown, I know a few people who come to volunteer because they've had time and they've been sadly furloughed from work. But going forward, have absolutely again been overwhelmed by the number of people and younger people who have come forward and offered to help on a voluntary role. And there will be a role for them all. Believe me, we will find something for them to do.
So the message is, it's not just your money that we want your practical assistance as well. And
everything,
if there are people, but get in touch with Michelle, get in touch with people at Nicky. So what is the best way to get in touch with you, Michelle?
They can email me, which is michelle@mjcc.org.uk. They can phone the office here, which is 01617 740 0111, or they can phone me on my mobile, which is 07885 221136.
There you go, fully accessible.
Absolutely. And they could even follow me on Twitter and Facebook.
Fantastic. So there's so much that people can do in order to get involved and to support the Nicky, and to make sure that this vital resource isn't taken from our community, because very often we're guilty of letting things slip away without knowing that the old adage is that you don't know what you've got till it's gone.
Exactly.
And the Nicky was almost one of those casualties, wasn't it?
It was. Use it or lose it, as they say. So,
but it is needed, and I know that a lot of people will say, oh, there are similar services out there. The Fed, for instance, provides certain services, but let's face it, a lot of the people that are residents at Heathlands, for instance, use the Nicky. It's the only journey sometimes that they take into the outside world. That journey, I remember getting into discussion with one of your users there at the centre. The journey to and from the centre was really the only window to the outside world, in terms of the changing of the times and different shops that are popping up around town, and just really lets them feel like they've got out and that they've managed to socialise with different people, and to perhaps take them out of an institutionalised setting and give them a bit of respite from that. It's for morale, that's extremely important, isn't it?
It is extremely important. And also our view is that once somebody's gone, say, into not just Heathlands, but there are other residential nursing homes, why should they lose that contact with their friends that they've already got here? So we feel where possible, it is important that they come back to the Nicky and are able to keep that contact with their friends that they've made while they've been here. So that is also very, very important, we feel. So that's another reason why people who, once they go into Heathlands or other care, we don't shut the door and say, well, you're there. No, we want you here, and we want you. And as you rightly say, it's different activities, and it does get them out, and it doesn't get, they don't become too institutionalised.
And Fantastic. So in terms of when you feel that the Nicky might be coming back, and I know that it's very difficult to say, and as a community, all different organisations from synagogues, schools, community centres, we're all looking at the guidance and the ever-changing landscape of that guidance, trying to work out the safest way to reopen. When do you anticipate that you'll be welcoming people back to the centre?
I don't think it will be this year, because I think it will be early next year, because we want to make sure that it is safe to do so. I, like many others, think that sadly there might be a second spike either sooner or in the winter, and the last thing we want to do is open and then have to shut again. So, and we want to make sure that it is safe. So we will only reopen when it's safe to do so, and I am liaising with other organisations who run daycare centres outside of Manchester to see what they're doing, and I think we all have to work together as a consortium to decide when we feel it is safe to do so, also based on, obviously, on government advice as well.
Fantastic. So just to recap, in terms of the fundraising effort, that's happening for, is it for 24 hours only that it
36 hours,
36.
10 o'clock Sunday morning, the 5th of July till 10 p.m, Monday night, the 6th of July.
Okay, and there are a number of different ways that people can donate. You can donate over the phone. There's a direct link as well. I know that we're going to be posting links to make it easy for people to access it and find it. And obviously we'll be talking again about this and promoting it as much as possible in the run up to Sunday. And no doubt, if your phone rings and it's from either myself, Mike, Michelle, or any of the other volunteers that are going to be raising money, please pick it up. It is needed, and every penny counts. No donation will be turned away. Is that right?
Absolutely. Every penny counts, definitely.
Every penny counts.
Yes.
I just, so on behalf of, I suppose on behalf of the community, I just wanted to sort of say thank you for the effort that you're making to save this vital resource. I know that you've had the support of the local press, and I know that Paul Harris and the JT have been tremendously supportive, which is always needed. And no doubt in the future, hopefully the Nicky will remain front and centre in people's attentions, and that they will know that there's a lot more that we can always be doing to give our time and also much needed funds to such a great organisation.
Yeah.